Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Europa League football, it's back, and this is going to be the match preview for our team, the mighty Wolverhampton Wanderers, against from Catalonia, Barcelona, Espanyol. All the team news, thoughts, stats, facts, and of course that all-important prediction. 2 games in 2 weeks. Who's going to come out on top? I'm going to let you know my thoughts on that, and it's all coming up next. So, first off, the head-to-head. There is no head-to-head record because this is the first meeting between Wolves and Espanyol. So, in terms of the team news, the only major doubt, well, the only player that is definitely out for Wolves is Ruben Vinagre. He's obviously been out with that hamstring problem. Nuno has said that he's very close to rejoining the group, but he will not be risked for this game. Whether he's back in for Norwich at the weekend on Sunday, we'll wait and see. For Espanyol, they've got a couple of real key players out, but the main one that they're going to be missing without is their January signing, Raul Jimenez, who has scored 5 goals in 5 games since his move. So he's a very big miss for them. In terms of Espanyol, well, they're bottom in La Liga. They've been bottom for quite a while, actually. They did finish 7th in La Liga last year to qualify. They've had a dreadful season. They've changed their manager 3 times. However, in January and since the turn of the year, they have upturned in form. And they've got a much better record. They spent 40 million in the transfer window. The 20 million was on that key striker, as I say, another Raul, who's been scoring for them. And they did get the last game, a draw away at Sevilla. That was 2-2. They were winning that game 2-1 before they had a player sent off and went down to 10 men. It eventually finished up as 2-2. It's key in the fact that it was away against a team that is chasing at the top of La Liga for a Champions League place. So that just goes to show their upturn in form. So it's not going to be easy, although Wolves will go into this as favourites. In terms of some match facts, Wolves' only previous meeting with Spanish opponents actually came in the 1959-60 European Cup quarter-final, and they were eliminated by another Catalonia team, Barcelona. I'm sure you've all heard of them, which was 9-2 on aggregate, and that was 4-0 away and 5-2 at home. Espanyol, on the other hand, they've not met English opponents since the 1961-62 Intercities Fairs Cup, and they eliminated Birmingham City 5-3 on aggregate. And in a stretch for Wolves as well, stretching all the way back to October 1973, Wolves have won 9 of their last 10 games in all European competitions. Obviously they lost that. The one loss was against Braga in match day 1 of the group from this year's competition. And the last time Espanyol were in the knockout stages of a major European competition was actually in the 2006-2007 UEFA Cup, where they reached the final, eventually losing on penalties to Sevilla. Including the qualifiers, Raul Jimenez, which is quite a good stat for him, has been involved in 12 goals in his 11 games, scoring 9 and assisting 3. And one other fact is that Espanyol have a phenomenal record going back at the moment. Their last 13 away day trips in European competitions, they are unbeaten, winning 8 and losing 5. So some real cool, interesting stats, but obviously we have to put this into the backdrop of the game itself. As I say, Espanyol at the moment bottom, so maybe their little focus will be a bit more on staying in La Liga, whereas Wolves obviously sitting comfortable in the Premier League, looking upwards, potentially chasing down that Champions League place, depending on what happens with the appeal for Man City. 5th place for a Champions League would come up potentially. VAR rears its head again. Obviously that's been very much talked about on Twitter recently, and VAR comes in for the group stages, not the group stage, the knockout stages of the Europa League. But it's not going to be Stockley Park that are running this. It's going to be actually UEFA itself, and apparently the officials doing the VAR are going to be on site, and you may see referees going to a screen. So it'll be interesting to see if there is any VAR incidents, which there probably always likely is, being a Wolves game, on how that is dealt with and communicated. Interestingly, Arsene Wenger, who is head of FIFA's development, is putting couple of proposals together for a meeting at the end of February for implementation, which may come in actually from the European Championships, the national championships in the summer. Talking about offside, obviously there's been so many times there's been a toenail or a nose offside, and his proposal's going to be more about the attacker can be in front, and if they've got any part of their goal scoring body that is onside, then the goal will count. So it's going to be a big change if that comes in. And also about communication in the stadium. I think those are key points. Obviously that's VAR, we've talked a lot about that. One other thing that comes into play in the knockout rounds of this particular competition, away goals. Away goals are going to be coming into this to count. So obviously I always fancy Wolves to score away, but can they shut Espanyol out at home, which would give them the advantage? So the team that I think we're going to pick, and leave your thoughts on the team below, and then I'll come to my prediction on what I think the score is going to be in this particular leg. Patricio is going to start, Cody's going to start, Bolly is going to start. The one question mark comes over the left-sided berth. Does he bring in Kilman, or does he stick with Saiss? My particular thoughts is he will stick with that back three, especially they're established, they're settled. Kilman can do a job, we know that, but not conceding is going to be very important in this game, and we've seen that back three have kept and shut out in the last two games. But I know we haven't scored, but we haven't conceded either, so that's what I'm thinking. I think in terms of the wing backs, he's going to go with Doherty and Johnny Otto. We've seen that Oscar Burr has been on the bench recently, and Nuno said he's 100% a first team player now, so there is a possibility that he may start, but I think not. This game's too important, especially on the defensive side. I think he'll stick with that. The only change in the midfield, I think it'll be Neves and Matinha that will come in. Dendonker's a good option off the bench. And then up front, obviously, we've talked about the key stats of Jimenez in European competition. He's going to 100% start. I think he will go with Traore from the beginning. Traore going to love playing against Espanyol, being as he was come through the Barcelona youth ranks. So that's going to be a big one for him. And then is it Jota or Pedro Neto on the left-hand side? I think Pedence will probably still stay in reserve. He's still fairly new finding his way. He's had a few cameo appearances at the moment. But I think he's going to go with Neto. Jota's just not quite on it at the moment, and I think he's still building up his fitness, and he'll probably get the start against Norwich. So I think he's going to go with Neto up front. What do you think the team's going to be? In terms of the score prediction, if Wolves can get a shutout in this, it's going to be a major advantage. So I'm going to go that Espanyol are going to get shut out and get nothing. I think Wolves, I think Espanyol may make change. They've got a very big match at the weekend against a team that's 15th, which would draw them into the relegation battle, and that's a key, massive game in their survival fight. So they might make a few changes. They're obviously without a couple of key players. I think Wolves should be too strong, and I'm going to go with a 2-0 victory. If we can get 3-0, wow, that would really put us in the driving seat. But 2-0, keep a clean sheet, and then we go to to Barcelona next week in a very, very strong position, because I would really fancy Wolves to get at least 1 goal away from home. But let's see how this one pans out. 2-0. Leave your team thoughts. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Any of those stats that stick out for you, and what's your score prediction as well? So yeah, come on Wolves. It should be a fantastic night. Let's get behind it. It should be an amazing night under the lights. A place in the last 16 of the Europa League at stake. First leg. Let's do this. From myself, Dazzling Dave, until the next one, always Wolves.